Good afternoon, my name is Specialist Robinson. Today I'll be teaching 071-Charlie Oscar Mike-1016, Converting Azimuths. We're going to start off by doing our initial PCI check. So I will go up to each individual soldier and I will check to make sure they all have a water source, a pen or a pencil, a piece of paper or something to write with, and their 1 by 50,000 map with a declination diagram. So each soldier has all 4 of those things, so we're going to move on to our risk assessment. Excuse me while I move through my documents. So we're in the classroom today, so a couple hazards for the classroom. First one being wires or electrical cords about the classroom, so just make sure that you're using your situational awareness while walking about the classroom. All electrical cords or wires should be taped down or organized in a proper fashion, but just in case, make sure you're watching your step. There is a ceiling fan in this classroom, so make sure we're not jumping up and down with our hands in the air, but we will be keeping that ceiling fan off just in case. In the event of a tornado, we will be moving down the hall to the left, take a right to go down the steps. The train down on the first floor is a storm shelter, so that is where we will go in the event of a tornado. In the event of a fire, we will take our quickest exit out of the building, which is take a left into this hallway, a right down the steps, a right at the bottom of the steps, out the front door of the building. In case of an active shooter, we will run, hide, fight if necessary. And we are a Green Army, so we will reduce, reuse, and recycle. So, moving on, let's start our training. Alrighty. So, conditions. You are a member of a squad preparing to conduct tactical movement, and you have been directed to convert azimuths in preparation for the movement. You have been given a 1 by 50,000 military map with a declination diagram, pencil, paper, and a magnetic azimuth, and a grid azimuth. Some iterations of this task should be performed in Mach 4. Standards. Convert an azimuth into a back azimuth, a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth, and a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth without error. There are no special conditions, no special standards, our safety risk is low. Sometimes we will be in Mach 4. Note, the north-south lines designate grid north on your map. The compass needle points to magnetic north. The grid magnetic GM angle is the angle difference between grid north and magnetic north. Warning. When converting azimuths into back azimuths, extreme care should be exercised when adding or subtracting the 180 degrees. A simple mathematical mistake could have disastrous consequences. So step 1, convert an azimuth into a back azimuth. So first, you add 180 degrees if the azimuth is 180 degrees or less, and you will subtract 180 degrees if the azimuth is 180 degrees or more. So, for example, when we're converting back azimuth, if the azimuth is less than 180 degrees, in this case this azimuth is 90, we will be adding 180 degrees. So 180 added to 90 is 270. This is our back azimuth, 270. If you have an azimuth of 200, which is more than 180 degrees, we will subtract 180. Which leaves us with 20. This is our back azimuth. Moving on. Step 2. Convert a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth. Note, to convert a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth, subtract the GM angle. Warning, when converting azimuths into back azimuths, extreme care should be exercised when adding or subtracting 180 degrees. A simple mistake of 1 degree could be significant in the field. So, locate the GM angle, which is a part of the declination diagram at the bottom of your map. Note, the declination diagram shows both a graphic picture of the GM angle and provides a written summary of the GM angle. This written summary includes the date of the GM angle and the actual angle in both degrees and mils. This is what your declination diagram should look like at the bottom of your map. You can see it gives it in degrees, so in this case 9.5 degrees, and 170 mils. Next, determine whether the GM angle is easterly or westerly. Then you will apply the mathematical formula to convert a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth. So 1, you will add an easterly GM angle to a magnetic azimuth to obtain a grid azimuth. And 2, you will subtract a westerly GM angle from a magnetic azimuth to obtain a grid azimuth. Note, as an example, you were given a magnetic azimuth of 190 degrees. Using the above diagram, you would add 9.5 degrees to 190 degrees to obtain a grid azimuth of 199.5 degrees. So without 190 degrees, you can use this diagram. You can see here it's showing you that this is an easterly GM angle, and that's how you know to subtract 9.5 degrees from that 190 degrees to obtain a grid azimuth of 199.5 degrees. Next, we're going to convert a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth. Locate the GM angle, which is a part of the declination diagram at the bottom of your map. Note, the declination diagram shows both a graphic picture of the GM angle and provides a written summary of the GM angle. This written summary includes the date of the GM angle and the actual angle in both degrees and mils. You're going to apply the mathematical formula to convert a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth. So first you will subtract an easterly GM angle from a grid azimuth to obtain a magnetic azimuth. And 2, you will add a westerly GM angle to a grid azimuth to obtain a magnetic azimuth. Note, as an example, given a grid azimuth of 199.5 degrees, using the above diagram, you would subtract 9.5 degrees from 199.5 degrees to obtain a magnetic azimuth of 190 degrees. So again, on the diagram, you can see it says it's an easterly GM angle, so that is how you know to subtract 9.5 degrees from 199.5 degrees to obtain a magnetic azimuth. So that's grid to magnetic. So here in a second, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to practice, but just for you to remember, the 3 things you need to practice are converting an azimuth into a back azimuth, converting a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth, and converting a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth. So your 5 minutes to practice starts now. At this time, the 5 minutes of practice are up. Are there any questions? We're going to begin the evaluation. So conditions, you are a member of a squad preparing to conduct tactical movement, and you have been directed to convert azimuths in preparation for the movement. You have been given a 1 by 50,000 military map with a declination diagram, pencil, paper, and a magnetic azimuth, a grid azimuth. Some iterations of this task should be performed in Mop 4. Standards: convert an azimuth into a back azimuth, a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth, and a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth without error. Understand that if at any time you do not meet all performance measures, you will not receive a go. At this time, I will begin the evaluation, evaluating each soldier individually. The evaluation is complete. I'm going to ask that all soldiers conduct a police call. Make sure you pick up after yourselves. Don't leave any of your materials or papers behind. While they're conducting the police call, I will tell my staff sergeant that we have 3 trained and 1 untrained soldier. All soldiers have returned from the police call. So, the time and place for your retrain, the place will be back at this building. The time will be 0900 on August the 19th of 2021. And the reevaluation will also be at this building, same day, August 19th, 2021. And that will be at 1300. The uniform for both will be OCPs, water source, pencil paper, and your map, 1 by 50,000 map with the declination diagram. I will now conduct the final PCC-PCI check. So all soldiers still have their water source, their pen or pencil, their paper that they brought to write with, and their 1 by 50,000 map with the declination diagram. So everyone has everything that they came with, nothing is broken, nothing is lost. We will now conduct the AAR. The rules for the AAR is that everyone has a right to speak, and I want to encourage maximum participation. Please don't talk over each other, and as always, be respectful of differing viewpoints. So, what was supposed to happen? What was supposed to happen was I was going to tell you what I was going to be teaching, which was 071-Charlie Oscar Mike -1016 Convert Azimuths. Then I was to conduct an initial PCC-PCI check, then brief you guys the draw or the deliberate risk assessment. Then I was going to state the task, condition, and standards of the training. Then I was going to brief you on what you were going to be practicing, so the performance measures, and give you 5 minutes to practice. After the 5 minutes of practice, I was supposed to ask you for questions. After that, I was going to restate the task, condition, and standard, and all performance measures in order. Then I was supposed to let you know that you need to meet all performance measures to receive a go. Then we were supposed to begin the evaluation. After your evaluation was complete, I was supposed to have you all conduct a police call. While you were conducting the police call, I was supposed to report to the SGL how many trained and untrained personnel that we have. After the police call, I was supposed to give you all a time, place, and uniform for both the retrain and reevaluation. After the police call, I was supposed to conduct the final PCC-PCI and then conduct this AAR. Then after that, we are going to review if the draw controls were effective. So, what actually happened? Okay, now that we've finished what actually happened, what went right? Okay, what went wrong? How can I improve training for next time? So in summary, we went over what was supposed to happen. I told you what was supposed to happen. I asked what actually happened. You told me what actually happened. I asked what went right. You told me what went right. I asked you what went wrong. You told me what went wrong. I asked how I can improve training for next time, and you let me know. So, were there any injuries? No injuries? Good to hear. Were all controls implemented effectively? There were no injuries, no lost equipment, so yes, all of the controls were implemented effectively. Staff Sergeant, at this time I would like to close out the training site.